film begins with Swagger, a sharpshooter, and his companion Doni carrying out a peacekeeping mission in a conflict zone in Ethiopia. They are on a barren hill, observing the movements of rebel forces from a distance. However, they are suddenly attacked by a helicopter that rains gunfire on them, despite no warning from intelligence about the possibility of an air assault. 23 years later, Swagger has retired and lives quietly in a secluded mountain home, accompanied only by his beloved dog, Same. However, his peaceful life is disrupted when he is visited by Bari, a former colleague from the FBI, who asks Swagger to help thwart a plot to assassinate the president using his sharpshooting skills. Swagger agrees to help and begins surveying several key locations in America, including Maryland, Philadelphia, and Washington, D.C. He pays attention to details such as wind speed, air temperature, humidity, and shooting distance to determine the most likely place for an attack on the president. Swagger chooses Philadelphia as the most probable location for the attack. Later, Swagger is taken by Bari and his team to an unofficial building where they monitor a public event attended by the president. Swagger carefully analyzes the situation and notes a threat to the president. However, before he can act, he is suddenly attacked by a Philadelphia police officer. The attack leaves Swagger severely injured, revealing that the plan was actually a trap. Swagger, who was wounded by the gunshot, managed to escape and sought refuge with a friend named Peace. He adamantly denied the accusations. After stopping a pursuing member, he successfully fled with his official vehicle. Meanwhile, in the building, they busied themselves installing rifles in positions as if Swagger was the shooter. However, their failure to kill Swagger made their opponents, especially Bari, anxious, leading them to send a team of professional armed operatives to capture Swagger, believing that failing to apprehend him would worsen their situation. Swagger found refuge in the home of a young widow named Sarah, the former wife of a colleague. Initially skeptical due to media influence, Sarah was convinced by Swagger's persistent efforts to persuade her that he was framed. Eventually, Sarah agreed to help and tended to his wounds. On another front, FDA agent Memphis was convinced of Swagger's innocence and attempted to find evidence to prove it. However, his efforts were in vain, and he even became a target for kidnapping. Swagger's intervention saved him, and since then, he agreed to join Swagger in their mission to uncover the FBI conspiracy. Swagger, accompanied by his friend Swagger, searched for information about the shooter. They discovered that the culprit was a hired sniper named Michael Zero, who is now disabled. They then went to Virginia to confront him as part of their plan to lure Swagger into a trap. As the time arrived, Swagger forcefully entered the house and confronted Mikhail, pointing a pistol at him. He recounted everything related to the assassination of the Archbishop, explaining that the motive was excessive fear from a group of criminals, afraid that the Archbishop would expose all their crimes to the president. He revealed that the masterminds behind it all were Colonel Isobar and Charles. Following this revelation, Michael shot himself in the head, resulting in his death. Fortunately, Swagger had recorded the conversation on his cell phone. Meanwhile, outside the house, an elite military unit dispatched by Colonel Sugiri surrounded the area and demanded Swagger's surrender. However, they fell into the trap of a bomb that had been planted earlier. Once again, Ishak and his associates' strategy proved ineffective against Swagger's prowess, as it had happened numerous times before. In the end, Ishak was compelled to accept the deal proposed by Swagger, albeit reluctantly. They had to surrender a senator as collateral in exchange for obtaining the file recording from the cell phone containing evidence of their crimes. This step, whether willingly or unwillingly, had to be taken by them. In short, Ishak and the senator arrived at the snowy mountain peak where they agreed to conduct their transaction. The villains were keen on winning by any means, including employing sneaky tactics such as manipulating Sarah as part of their strategy, and even deploying snipers at various points on the mountain. However, it seems Swager was more adept at deciphering their strategy and managed to thwart it, successfully incapacitating them. The situation left the guard frustrated and opposing Swager from a distance. Unexpectedly, Swager's sharpshooting skills suddenly severed his wrist. Meanwhile, the senator pretended to negotiate amicably by persuading Swager to cooperate with him, while Wenger firmly brought up the war crimes that occurred in Ethiopia 3 years ago, which served as a significant wake-up call for him. Unexpectedly, 2 helicopters arrived to apprehend Swager. Reluctantly, he surrendered and brought the matter to the court for trial. Before the judge and prosecutor, Swager tried to argue that the accusations against him were untrue, even regarding the evidence of the weapon found in his possession, claiming it was just a setup by Colonel Bari. He emphasized that the rifle was unused and not readily accessible to just anyone. However, to Swager's surprise, the court's decision ended up clearing Colonel Bari on the grounds that the case fell outside of their legal jurisdiction. Despite this setback, the judge granted Swager the opportunity to pursue justice in his own way. As a result, Swager was acquitted and justice was served in his own unique style.
I said it was quite a shot, in the face.
That night, Sin moved to a villa where Sobari and the senator were laughing at their sudden freedom. Suddenly, one of their associates fell before them with a bullet hole in his head, signaling Swager's arrival. Understanding the warning, they tried to defend themselves, but Swager's fury this time seemed uncompromising. As a result, all the inhabitants of the villa perished under Swager's relentless gunfire.
He's under the floor! You out of your mind.
Exactly.
Not content with that, he also sabotaged the gas installation before leaving it behind, and within seconds, boom, everything was destroyed. Meanwhile, Swager approached Sarah, who was waiting in his car.